Welcome, everybody, to episode 59 of the Crafty Boys. We're talking about a beer from California, but before we get to that, we have some special announcements. The very first one is there's a teaser trailer for the new Star Trek television show. Check it out on YouTube, because that's where I found it.
And it's starring Shane.
It's starring me, and my sister is the villain.
Oh!
Actually, my sister was the one who brought it to my attention, so she decided that I should. Oh wow, bang! We should know about it. So therefore, you heard it here first. Hashtag Star Trek. And the other thing that is happening today is we're going to pick by the end of the episode the name of this beer right here.
That
this
rhymes.
Is an IPA brewed by yours truly in the name of the Crafty Boys, and we will, of course, choose today.
And if it tastes good, then we'll make a larger batch, and we will take over the craft beer world.
That's right, and get arrested for selling...
No, we'll do it legally.
Oh, well, all right. Well,
and then we'll get arrested.
If you want to play by the rules. And potentially there will be a stout, an Irish stout, being brewed this weekend,
nice.
Also in the name of the Crafty Boys, depending on weather and that kind of stuff. So, how's it going, guys?
Pretty good. How are you?
Good.
I am jazzed for a new Star Trek television show, but there isn't a whole lot to the trailer, just that it will feature new crews, new villains, new adventures, and new worlds, or something like that. So yeah, on the
So
CBS,
does that mean by new villains, that means like no Klingons and no Romulans? And...
I think, to me, it would mean that they're just talking about the characters. I don't think they'd be talking about races, but again, maybe, I don't know. Maybe they have looked at the sad fact of the last few Star Trek films and thought, let's go back to what we did really well. Yeah, because that's how I feel about those new not Star Trek films.
So introduce the beer.
What's the beer? That's right. That's what I was actually going to say. Dave, tell us what the beer is. But then halfway through that sentence, I realized it was my choice this week.
Yes, it was.
This week, we have chosen. My bottle has gone walkabout. I don't know where it's gone.
It's an American beer, not an Australian beer.
It is an American beer out of California from Anchor Brewing. It's from San Francisco. This is the Anchor Steam beer. It is apparently a deep amber color that looks similar to this.
Nice.
Distinctive flavor and a rich history. This beer is first brewed in 1896.
Really?
And according to the website, they have not changed the recipe one iota. So this is what they've had for, 120 years. 120 years now.
Wow. Can you show the bottle, Shane?
I don't have the bottle. Somebody else has the bottle. My bottle's gone.
Here's the bottle here.
Oh, there's the bottle, Dave.
There we go. Dave, I'm going to zoom in on you, Dave. The Anchor Steam, yeah.
It's actually quite nice.
I chose... Oh, here we go. Somebody, the Peanut Gallery, stole my bottle. I was really confused there for a sec. So that's the bottle. It's got a really nice label. It's got a very sort of simple label compared to a lot of beers that we've had. Because we've actually had some labels that have been amazing art. But this to me feels 100 and maybe refreshed in the 50s maybe, but overall I think that I suspect maybe it hasn't changed. But again, I have no idea.
The bottle is halfway between a stubby and a long neck.
That is true. That is very true. Actually, that's a good comment because the bottles are unique. They're 300 and they're about the same size as a can. So not millimeter. If you take the measurements from height, 355 milliliters, which is slightly big. Sorry?
I said, you mean cubic centimeters? Sorry.
Yeah, cubic. I don't know. Cubic centimeters. In the quantum world of this beer, you could take 16,000 trillion million quarks and put them all inside this bottle, and that's how we do measurement. So yeah, I mean, the reason I chose this beer is that the beer I was looking for a beer that we had not covered in a brewery we hadn't actually done either, and I don't think we've done any of their beers. I don't remember. I went back through a bunch of videos to make sure. And it actually made me think, we really should make a list because it was really difficult to go back and go, oh God, what? Because some of the shows we've had like 4 beers and it was like, I don't know what's going on. But yeah, this one seemed to be really popular because I've seen it a few times now, and I don't. It's everywhere in BC, except where Alan lives, because apparently they don't even have liquor stores there anymore.
No. Okay, so just a second. I didn't get the beer, but it's not because it's not available here. It's because I didn't have actual time to go out and get the beer. Because this beer was just selected yesterday.
He had a life. Hey, wait a minute. That's bad. No, that's good. My life is bad.
Yep.
Have you guys had except with the exception of Alan? Have you guys been? Have you guys cracked and poured already?
Yep.
Oh yeah, I'm sipping it now. So
What do you think?
What do you know about steam beers? Because I can only think of one beer that this really reminds me of. Initially, I was kind of thinking sort of those Czech kind of pilsners, and I was but no. This reminds me of Steam Whistle out of Toronto. Darker, but
It actually, that's a good point. It does it has a similar taste, at least in my memory, for Steam Whistle.
Hmm.
Now, the big thing that is interesting about the brewery is that I was doing a little reading earlier today about it, and one of the things they actually have are the open-top fermentation tanks.
Really?
So they don't close everything in like they would normally do. Sorry?
is that why it's a steam beer?
Well, for the steam beer now, of course, I've not really heard of steam beers all that often, except for Steam Whistle. But of course, I don't. Anyway, my expertise is very limited to the tasting. But essentially, what it is there is you take the beer and it's using lager yeasts to and hot fermentation, like warm fermentation at the beginning. So, I mean, there's a lot more to it, obviously, but I don't care because it tastes really good. And the one thing that which I really took to heart, was that Jack London refers to this type of beer in some of his literature. So there you
Oh, okay, nice.
go. Specifically, a story called John Barleycorn. But anyway,
There's a song about that too.
the
Traffic did a song called John Barleycorn.
oh really? Kick ass.
I think it might be a traditional, actually, from like way back. Because the lyrics are pretty. I mean, we're talking like 1600s kind of way back here.
Now, I mean, the big thing about the steam beer part too is that it's been around. This style of beer has been around for a long time, and it was always apparently considered to be a cheap beer. It was the way you'd make a beer without a whole lot of skill. So I just read this on their website that they actually have trademarked in 1981. Anchor Brewing Company trademarked the term steam beer. So it's very interesting. I mean, it really points out to me that I really need to learn a hell of a lot more about yeasts, because I've done this one for the first time. I'm going to show it off again. Look at the color. It's going to be amazing when it's all like not cloudy. But the yeast that we used in this one was called Cascadia, and it is like a yeast you would normally use for lagers and for pilsners, I think. So putting it into an IPA was a bit unusual, but it has
You mean
been
a
done
hop?
before. Sorry, what did I say?
You said yeast.
Sorry, I meant the hop. Sorry.
Yes.
Actually, well, the first one, then the second one, the Cascadia. Oh my God, I'm trying to remember the names now. But I put in 4 different types of hops into this one. So a starter, then a couple of mids, and then a finisher. So.
Right. Did you dry hop it?
No, I used pellets.
Hmm.
Mainly because it was easier and available. But yeah, I mean, but going back to this beer, I mean, this is, to me, if you compare them side by side, just picture this one being clear, and yeah, so
They
similar
look like a similar color, don't they?
Now, just a question on the beer that you brewed. When you did your wort boil, did you put any Irish moss in it?
I did not put any Irish moss in it. I used, what did I use? I had, I put in the malt, and then I'm trying to remember the name of the grain. I boiled it with, shoot, I can't remember. But it's
So,
yummy.
yeah,
Crystal grain, crystal something. Anyway,
crystal
Alan,
malt.
what is crystal malt? I think. Yeah, Alan, what does Irish moss do?
The Irish moss actually is a finishing agent. So what it does is it improves the clarity of the beer. It will eliminate that cloudiness. So if you don't
so it
use
sucks up
Irish
some of that.
moss, if you
Right,
don't
right,
use Irish moss, you're not gonna your beer is still going to be cloudy
right.
when
Okay.
it's all finished.
Just clarifying. Irish moss. We're not talking about green moss on the ground from Ireland. Irish moss is a different kind of thing, right?
Yeah, no, actually, it is.
Well,
It's a particular kind of moss, and you can get it at most brew stores.
Doesn't it go on trees?
Pardon?
Isn't it normally found on like trees and stuff?
I don't know. I'm not a gardener, but no, I don't know.
You know who would know is Todd. Too bad
Todd, yeah.
That's
It's
true.
funny because I've talked to him about brewing and stuff and how I'd like some Irish moss. He's like, "Oh, I can get you some." So
Okay,
next
that sounds
time,
awesome.
yeah, next time we should get them.
I was under the impression that Irish moss was like lichen.
That's what I thought it was. But again, even lichen will absorb. Why not? So I don't know where I got. Anyway.
Okay,
Lichen
back
will
to
be great.
back to the Anchor Steam.
But yes,
Okay.
back to the Anchor Steam. What do you think? What are you tasting in here? What does this say? This is an easy flowing one. I kind of like it. Guys?
I like it very much. In fact, I'm going to do a little experiment to see if I can find a way to like it even more. Okay,
Oh
so
yeah,
I had
let's
some.
check these out, boys and girls. Check these out. These are awesome.
Awesome.
Hold on. These are not just attractive drinking ware. They have been engineered, I say, to improve the flavor, not to improve, to optimize the flavor of beer. This is specifically engineered for IPAs. This is for porters, and stouts. All right. This one has a little bit of a washboard effect down the bottom here. It affects the way the carbonation happens. The choke point about here, whenever the liquid moves around, like if you're moving the glass, it reheads the beer.
Whoa.
So I would not have believed that this would have an actual discernible effect on the flavor of the beer until I tried it. Now, further note, the way the glass is fluted here, that improves the nose, so concentrates the aroma. We're going to do a side-by-side. This is Anchor beer. I'm going to use the IPA glass because I think it's not exactly right, but I think it's more appropriate than the stout. Okay. and the rest is going in a regular pint glass. Now, I'm going to say right out of the gate that I like this beer better out of the glass than I like it out of the bottle. And I'm not, for years, I've been mostly sort of a bottle guy. I'm drinking beer, especially if it's like something that isn't like a really strong beer. I like it straight out of the bottle kind of thing. But this beer, I got to say, straight away, I like it better out of the pint glass. Now I'm going to try it out of this. Okay, straight away, what it does is it takes away the. It doesn't take away the bright sort of bittery flavors and the caramely darks, but it tones them down a little, so it makes a sort of a rounder kind of a flavor. Now, take a look at the way this thing's maintaining a head.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'm drawing your attention to it now. Now, I'm going to just sip on this. I'm going to nurse it for a little while, and we'll check in on it again in a little bit. Let's talk about something else.
What's happening to the head in the regular glass?
It's dissipating rapidly.
That's kind
I've
of
got almost
cool.
nothing in mine.
That's interesting.
And mine is
Yeah,
sort of
mine's
fruited.
gone too.
Hmm.
I'm interested to see this work. Well, we had some articles actually to talk about as well that Alan supplied as usual. Now, the first one is a university in the UK has banned the throwing of the mortarboards during a graduation ceremony for fear that people will die. Yeah, the University of East Anglia in eastern England told students that it was curbing the cap throwing after a number of injuries over recent years to graduates were hurt by falling mortarboards. Penguin Photography, which takes the graduates' portraits, said students could mime the throwing and have a mortarboard digitally added later. It said in a statement where they very much prefer to do these photos in the traditional way, but they have to comply with the university's wishes. Jeff Cox of the Britain's Health and Safety Executive said Wednesday that the chance of being injured by a flying mortarboard is incredibly small, and the university is over the top imposing such a ban. So essentially, we have a university basically doing what I anyway, have been complaining about for ages, about universities are trying to coddle students and do all kinds of ridiculous things. But this, to me, it's not like the mortarboards have razor blades flying around the corners. I could see that being a problem.
They do have like pointy bits on it.
Did you say that they chose to obey the university's wishes or the university's witches?
Oh.
You know what? I kind of like the latter. The university's witches have decided that an injury risk is just too much.
Witches. That's why they can't throw the mortarboards. Is because of witches.
Jeff Cox of Britain's Health and Safety also said that brooms would also be banned by the university for fear of an injury risk while sweeping of the dormitory hallways. This has got to be one of the most ridiculous things. I mean, one of the most. It's one of those things where you want to go home and sit on a couch and drink a tasty beverage such as this,
Mm-hmm.
and wonder aloud why the world is going to shit. It's because of this kind of weird behavior, which is very strange to me. I don't know what else to say other than let's all take our hats off, put our hands in the air, go, and then have some guy digitally add flying mortarboards later on. That's just, I don't know, man.
I mean, what about Mary
Yeah.
Tyler Moore? I mean, Mary Tyler Moore took off her hat and threw it up in the air. You are gonna make it after all. I mean, I know that's not a mortarboard, but where would we be in this world without throwing our hats in the air in celebration?
Well, obviously, Alan, a lot
But,
safer.
but more disturbingly, who would pretend to celebrate as a
Well, I
viable
know.
alternative? It's sort of
I'm
like,
broke!
okay, you could
I have tuition debt!
That I'll never pay off
Yay!
because there are no jobs.
Oh, wow.
Oh. Oh.
So,
So, gentlemen, observe.
observe.
Head.
Ready?
Mm.
Okay. It's a small,
Diminished, but
small
it's
head.
still there.
That's pretty awesome,
Still there?
actually. Because mine's gone.
Yeah, but you know what?
I feel that my
Shane,
glassware is...
Shane, hold up your glass. Hold up your glass. And Locke, you hold up yours.
Yeah.
I would say that the head in Locke's glass is very similar to the head in Shane's.
Really?
Let's see Shane's.
There's mine right there.
Just sort of like a little film on
It's hard to
top.
see into it, but there's foam in the middle in mine.
Yeah,
Okay.
mine does not have foam in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
Um,
Well, maybe there's something to it then.
Our second article is also off, but it's off for cute reasons. A Texas woman is selling her housebroken bison. So, the bison named Bullet is a 1,000-pound domesticated bison that it was allowed to roam in her owner's Dallas area home.
Oh,
Has moved on to new pastures. It was transported away 15 miles away to basically live with some girls. But she was struggling to balance work and looking after Bullet because he was house trained. He lived in the house.
classic difficulty balancing work with bison.
Honestly, that has got to be one of the most honest people on the planet. Like, I have a bison living in my house, and it uses the toilet. It learned to flush too. Well, I have a feeling it probably left the house to do its business. But yeah, you never know. Take note, pugs.
Imagine cleaning up in the backyard after the bison.
Imagine if the bison's locked inside and can't get out.
Like, did she ever take the bison out for a walk and have to like carry little baggies around? Like, but instead of baggies, they're like garbage bags.
Are we talking about a pygmy bison?
No, we're talking
No,
like a full.
the
We're talking about
photograph
buffalo.
looks like a full-on sized bison. Yeah.
They show a picture of it like walking down the hallway.
Yeah. It's quite the bison.
We-
The thing that blows me away is that this thing actually
Like,
fits
How
in the
big a
house.
house are we talking about?
Looks like an average size house. Not that big, not that small. I don't know.
Does the bison sleep in the bed with the owner?
That's what I wanted to know. Actually, I was like, really? Could you actually, cuddling with dogs, at night is one thing, but could you? And even I would think it's if you had like a Great Dane or something, it would be a little extreme to do anything like that. Just snuggle with that. But a bison now. I'm trying. Imagine the amount, like the actual restraint you'd have to not just want to sleep outside, because the reinforcing you'd have to do to that kind of bedding. Could you imagine? I don't sleep with a mattress anymore. No, I just have a couple of metal stands with some bricks on it. Like 1,000-pound animal. That's scary. I mean,
What do you feed it? I mean, do you go down to like do you go down to Pet Cetera and pick up like a bag of bison food?
bison chow. I don't know. I just I don't know.
That's ludicrous. The bisons are grazing animals. Wouldn't the bison need to roam a bit, range a bit?
Well, I
Like
mean, it looks like. I mean, I don't know, but I mean, they don't talk about it at all. But it does look like the door is left open quite a bit. But again, I don't know. Maybe if it's house trained, it kind of decides, hey, lady, I gotta do my thing, so take me outside now, or you're gonna be really sorry. Because that would just be a little crazy.
Where in the world?
In Texas. Where else? Where else? I mean, really, what do you think about it?
Texas is pretty warm, though, isn't it?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, so you can leave the door open a bit. The neighbors must fucking. How do the neighbors?
Well, my suspicion. I mean, it doesn't say, but my suspicion is that they probably live on a farm rather than just like down the block from us, kind of thing.
Okay, right, yeah. Yeah,
But again, you never know. Maybe. I mean, it is entirely possible.
No, it did say in the article that the owner also had ponies. So I think it stands to reason.
Yeah, all right.
So after talking about a bison, you can only talk about Star Trek.
Clearly.
Because how else do you not talk about Star Trek? I think Locke, you've seen the trailer. I've seen the trailer. Dave, have you watched it yet? Are you there, Dave?
For the latest movie.
TV show.
How's the head on your beard?
Actually, this is the first I've even heard about it.
That they're doing a new TV show?
I didn't even realize it was out.
It's not out, but it's coming.
Yeah, I had no. Okay, I knew that there was a new show, but I didn't realize that they had even a teaser up today. I'm assuming it went up today.
Yes, it went up this afternoon.
Realistically,
on YouTube today, but
realistically, what I'm dying to find out about is the captain.
I'm not. Who knows? I mean, I'm curious myself. So, Alan, have you watched the trailer? I did. I put it in the back channel. What did you think? I mean, it's not a fascinating trailer, really, but
I mean, there's nothing really in it. I mean, it just kind of shows some planets, and that's it. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool. I've seen some read some interviews about the new series. And basically, it's not going to be in the same timeline as the new movies. So it's going to be in the timeline of the old things. So, but I'm interested for a new TV series. In my opinion, Star Trek doesn't really work as a movie thing. It's a TV thing. I hear a lot of people, including you, Shane, complain about the new movies. I think the new movies work for what they are. A lot of people are complaining that they're not following what the original Star Trek set to do. And I think if you guys look objectively at the original movies from the original series, so Star Trek 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5 and 6, none of them held with the ideals of the original Star Trek, except for maybe the first one, and the first one sucked. After that, they went into sort of doing, like shoot 'em ups and with like a clear villain and Locke.
The first one I maintain was really nothing more or less than a science fiction interpretation of the voyage of Captain Cook. Captain Cook, to boldly go where no man has gone before. I mean, the parallels are, I think, really strong. But that's one theory.
Well, that's interesting. It still sucked.
Oh my god, I love these theories.
The original Star Trek
fighting words
picture was like absolutely the most boring piece of crap I've ever seen.
What are you talking about? It was awesome. It was back when, like, I remember as a kid when I watched that show, sliding doors were still science fiction-y.
Yeah.
It was like, oh my god, you look at how that door just slid past. That's so modern. Wow.
It
Yeah.
looks like we've found out who Alan really likes. He's a brony. Well, the big thing I like about now, the fact that I mean, we haven't had a Star Trek television program since 2005 when Enterprise went off the air. And I hadn't actually watched Enterprise up until a couple years ago when I broke my foot, and I watched from January to December. I watched every single episode from TNG to Enterprise, including DS9 and Voyager in the middle. And now that I feel like I have seen everything, I went back and I started watching the 1970s cartoon, which is really, I have to say, pretty decent in the writing. And I mean, yes, okay, I will admit that the original Star Trek show is awesome, but it definitely was meddled with in the third season, which is why it failed. Which I then read years later about. I read all of Shatner's biographies, all of the ones written by James Doohan, Nichelle Nichols, Walter Koenig, and Mr. Sulu, whose name for some reason is escaping my mind. Oh my God, what's his name?
He's the most relevant of them all.
I know. This is the stupid part. Anyway,
And the stupid thing
George
is
Takei.
that he escapes me as well. Oh, George Takei, yeah.
George Takei, yeah. Sorry. Anyway, but I've read all of their books, and it's very interesting to read them because pretty much they all. I mean, the most scathing account of the original series is in Walter Koenig. It's like the very first. It's the prologue of his book, where he has this dramatic build-up about how amazing Shatner is, and then at the last paragraph, he goes, "Everything before this paragraph is fiction. Everything after this paragraph is truth." It was just,
Wow.
yeah, he fucking hates Shatner, man. Anyway, so, but the thing that I really like about the new series, as much as we know nothing about it, is who's behind it, and the people that one of the guy that's running the showrunner for the show is a guy named by the name of Brian Fuller, who you may or may not have heard of. He's done a lot of writing for a variety of things, but essentially he started his writing career on DS9, and then he moved on to Voyager, and has done a bunch of other things, science fiction-y. Nicholas Mayer, though, who is the director of Star Trek II and Star Trek VI, is going to be a writer as well. He's basically going to be a major consultant for that entire thing. So I got to say that that to me marries a lot of the really old blood with sort of the TNG era blood, and ditches out of the new Star Trek movies, which you already brought up. Which I really like because I feel that the new
Hey,
Star
that's
Trek.
a show that's built some awesome family. If you've ever seen the documentary, the awesome documentary Trekkies,
Mhm.
Oh, I've seen it, yeah.
yeah. I mean, think about that in terms of satisfied, fans. I mean, they're the bomb. Like, they invented the convention. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
It yeah. I mean,
guys.
Dave, you've been pretty silent, man. Let's see the head.
Oh, just see the head.
Ed.
Mm.
Not bad.
Pretty good.
What do you think, gents, as advertised?
I don't know. Maybe I'll. Where did you get that glass?
So this came. It's not mine. It's a borrow. This came from the North American Brewers Conference in Philadelphia recently.
Interesting.
I approve. I want to get those glasses now. That to me is something I need. Because, you know, if beer can get better, and the glasses will do that, I don't know.
The next step is to put it like a connected app with your beer glass.
True.
Yeah, I don't know. But
You can connect it to your smartphone, and I don't know what it would do, but
Light-changing LEDs for starters.
Oh, I know. It'll tell you when
That's
you're
gonna
empty.
improve things.
it'll tell you when you're empty. You need a refill. My phone says I need a refill. Well, I better do what it says.
You're running low on IPA. Perhaps we should buy some more. Would you like me to buy some more and order it immediately? Yes.
You can order it from these vendors. This one delivers in 10 minutes.
Congratulations. So how, I don't know, what if you guys have one favorite episode of any Star Trek television show, not the movies, it's a television show, what would they be?
Oh, yikes.
Trouble with Tribbles.
Okay, that's a classic.
For me, it's Yesterday's Enterprise from The Next Generation.
Cool.
Do you remember that one?
That's the one with Kelsey Grammer as the captain from the past.
No, it's not.
No?
Yesterday's Enterprise is from the third season, I believe it was, and this was like a couple years after the Tasha Yar character had been killed off. Spoiler alert. And so the Enterprise is monitoring some sort of a temporal rift thing, like they do in every single episode. And the Enterprise before it, so the Enterprise C, comes through. And as soon as the Enterprise C comes through, everything changes. Tasha Yar is suddenly back on the ship. Worf is gone. The uniforms have changed. The starship is no longer called a starship. It's called a battleship. And there's no families on board. And it's because the Enterprise C came through that all of history changed. And it was a really interesting episode and how they played it. And yeah, that's it.
I don't even remember that episode.
Highly recommend.
I'm gonna have to rewatch them. One episode that comes to mind for me really easily from Next Gen is the episode where Riker loses his marbles. It's in a later season. No idea which one. But he's in a play. He puts on a play. And it involves basically going insane. And he does start to, or he does go insane in the episode. Huh?
It's Hamlet, basically, is what you're saying. Loses his marbles, puts on a play.
Not at all. It's not at all. I mean,
No?
yeah, I can see where you're going with that. It's not drawing on Hamlet, at least not heavily. Maybe just in terms of that character, perhaps. That episode really sticks in my mind for some reason. I think my favorite though is maybe Edge of Tomorrow. That might be my favorite.
Edge of Tomorrow? Okay.
Yeah.
Isn't Edge of Tomorrow written by is that the Edge of Tomorrow? I think City on is it City on the Edge of Forever? Maybe that's the one you're thinking of.
Yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Harlan Ellison, the science fiction writer, he wrote that one. That's right. And it's interesting because he's if you know any, have you guys heard of Harlan Ellison at all?
Oh,
So you're saying a science fiction writer wrote a Star Trek episode?
I know it's
and not like a Harlequin romance writer?
no. Well, no,
Nerds.
Like what
it's
big
interesting
name
because
got
he.
for the movies?
Sorry.
I said, you mean like who they got for the new movies?
Yeah, who are the people that wrote those movies? Because they don't know, they shouldn't be allowed.
We'll just not even acknowledge those ones. How's that?
I like the new movies.
We're getting old, boys.
Really?
I do like them. I think they're great for what they are, and
Which is
that
better.
is movies. Star Trek, and I've said this before. Star Trek is not a movie type of story. For stories for movies, whenever they do stuff that's very exploratory, like the original series or the Next Generation, it never works. People don't like it.
I don't know. They had
They
plenty of good
panic.
movies with the original cast.
It doesn't matter about the cast. It's, those stories
Well,
are
I'm not saying
boring
anything
for a
about the cast.
movie.
What I'm saying is I like a lot of the movies with the original cast. I think they're
Well,
great
yeah,
movies.
but they're not. Those stories still are not in line with what you would expect from Star Trek. Is what I'm saying.
Okay.
Well, maybe they're a little more actiony. Is that what you're getting at?
Hmm?
They're a little more actiony
Yes, a
than
lot
the
more
episodes,
actiony,
maybe.
and
But
that's
I
what
don't.
makes them good. And the first two movies of the new one, very actiony, and that's why people like them. Um, that's why I say Star Trek for purists is better in a television environment.
Okay.
I don't know, because I guess that's what I'm arguing is that those first six movies, it was six movies, right, with the original
Yeah,
cast.
yeah.
I think in general, you might think the first movies sucked, but I'm with Block and Chain. I thought they actually didn't do a terrible job on the first one. It wasn't great, but I enjoyed it anyways for what it was. But I think that they got the balance right for the most part in those movies. In these new
Well,
three,
I was
they
just
have
talking about the first
completely
movie.
thrown off the balance of the Force in these new movies
See, I don't
because
know. I
they
don't know that I agree with that. I don't agree with
to
that.
act. Eh, I just don't think that like it's almost like they've torn the heart out of what makes Trek in these new movies. That's what it is for
Mm.
You,
me. Like
you know,
I
you know
do
what, you know
enjoy
what's
them on a
missing. You know
level,
what I
but
think is missing is the sense that they're willing to put their own egos aside for the larger cause, or for for the thing about Star Trek is it's for people who believe in systems. I'm not one of them, but for people who do, it's an example of what you would hope one would look like, right? There's something about the way the way they try not to interfere unless they absolutely have to, right? The way the way they're ready to step in and do whatever needs to be done if there's a crisis, right? That kind of stuff. It's high character kind of as you would hope you would see it. You probably don't
mhm.
see it very much that way in most actual systems practiced by most people most of the time. But seeing one that looks really aspirational, I think there's something to that, right?
Mm.
For sure. I think that that was Roddenberry's original goal, was it not? To try and show people, look,
Mm.
this is the kind of thing that we can build, the kind of world that we can put together if we really want to, you know. Which I'm all for it, because I mean, look at what we've got for a world right now. But and I think that I guess that's what I'm trying to say is that is missing in these new movies because there is too big a focus on blowing shit.
Yeah, I remember when I first saw them. The quip that came out of my mouth was Star Trek: The Emo Generation.
My major complaint about those films is they mainly they do two things wrong. The films don't really know what they are. They're trying to fill a void with action that the yeah, screw you, Locke, get out of here. Locke just dropped off the thing.
Oh no.
But they ditched the intellect side of things to try and the philosophy is gone. That's really what I'm trying to say. The philosophy of what it is to be humanity is gone, replaced with action. And the second thing that they've done wrong.
What humanity was in Wrath of Khan? I mean, honestly,
what are you talking about?
There was none. All it is it's Die Hard on a starship.
Not even close.
The second film took a major steaming crap on the Wrath of Khan. They took an idea, they elaborated a bit, but they instead of being brave enough to make it their own, they treated the original material poorly, to the point where if you had never seen The Wrath of Khan, if you had no idea that there were other Star Trek movies and or television shows, you would have no idea. It was like it was treated like it was an in-joke, and I didn't like that because it's like they weren't brave enough. They wanted to remake Star Trek in a different way. They changed it to a different timeline, which freed them to do whatever they wanted, but they weren't brave enough to really commit. And because if they had done a character named Khan, and the story should have been completely different, it should have had nothing to do with the original material. It just seemed to me that they were too chicken to make a new Trek. They just decided the first one, they thought, okay, let's elaborate on the birth of Kirk, let's elaborate on this, let's change the timeline. And I thought that particular part of the story worked. But then the second one, I mean, and like suffered from somewhat of the first, with that they just didn't know what kind of film it was. They had all this action that they just seemed to like, okay, what should we have these characters do? We have all this history we can play with and change it up and make it our own, but you know what? Nah, have him blow something up. And but I'm not going to pick on that film or those films specifically either, because there's a lot of films right now that do exactly the same thing. I'm looking at you, Superman filmmakers, who have no idea what the story material, like what the original material is about, and then they decide, okay, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to do this. No, I can't have him blow something up. And I don't know. I just cannot get behind that. It was like watching Prometheus. I made it to the point where one of the characters, a scientist on an alien planet, decides arbitrarily, like, you know what? There was moisture in the air. It's safe, and takes off his helmet. I'm like, I'm done. I'm out.
I have to tell you something funny. I was actually watching Prometheus. I didn't know it was on Netflix. I didn't realize what it was. And then at the end, when the little alien, and they're in the cave or whatever, and the little alien comes up and attaches itself to a guy's face, I'm like, oh man, they totally ripped that off from me. I'm like, what's this piece of crap?
Well, that's exactly what it
I didn't
was.
realize until the end that it was actually a prequel.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay,
It's so
so Alan,
sad.
what
It's so
do you
sad.
think of the movie? What do you
Sorry.
think? I was just asking Alan what he thought of Prometheus.
It's been a while. I've only watched it once. It was all right. I would
I
never watch it again.
Yeah, fair enough. I just always found it interesting Shane's hardcore negative reaction to it because I actually didn't mind the movie. I enjoyed it.
I
But
didn't mind it. I didn't think it was great.
The other.
But I have to say that I'm actually not a hardcore Alien fan. So
Yeah. Well, I mean, overall, I actually the only other thing that I would have if I had actually watched the rest of the film, but a couple years later, I watched a review of the film, and they talk about how it's very strange that one of the characters goes off, gets cut open to give birth to this alien creature, and then walks back bleeding out of her abdomen, and apparently none of the other characters, and they played the scene like for 3 minutes. She walks back in. She's like, "Oh fuck!" There's this big fucking gash on her gut with all these staples in it, and no one says, "What's going on? What's wrong with you?" Like, no one says anything. It's like, "Hi, I'm back." It's like, "Oh well, you're late." Like, what? Like, and that's I
you
mean
look
that's
great.
the,
I like what you've done with your fashion.
yeah, exactly. Scarification. But that's the thing is that I don't like films that have arbitrary decisions made by characters for no reason, and you can almost feel the writer going, "Getting paid, nah, getting paid." They kind of pause for a moment to go, "Is this a good idea? Nah, who cares?" And then it totally gets screwed over. I mean, it's so incredibly sad. I mean, I'm actually looking forward to watching the fourth Alien film, which I've actually never seen. The one where Ripley is like cloned and brought back to life, and has Winona Ryder as her lesbian lover, or whatever the hell. Or no, that's a different movie. Anyway, yeah, no, it was kind of it reminded me that I hadn't seen that film, and I thought I should read it, or sorry, I should read it. I should watch it maybe. And somebody said to me a little while ago, "Yeah, you totally should, because it's actually not a terrible film compared to that fucking piece of shit." Because Alien 3 is better than Prometheus. And sadly, Prometheus 2 comes out in 2018. So anyway, there you go, Dave. You'll be very happy about that. To finish off really quickly, my favorite episodes of Star Trek, which I totally forgot to mention because we got talking about aliens, Inner Light and Darmok. Darmok, when the walls fell.
yeah.
And also Inner Light, which is the one where they run into a probe and Picard ends up living an entirely different life and then waking up 30 seconds later.
Oh, that's where he
And
gets his
the
whistle,
flute
right?
is inside the probe after he comes back.
Yeah. So there's all these sorts of, and I like those ones. I like the Darmok one mainly because it talks a lot about philosophy. It talks a lot about communication. It talks a lot about how when you don't speak the same language, how you can actually get to know another person, that kind of thing, even without the most common form of communication, like, "Hi, how's it going? My name's Shane. What's yours?" It's when you don't even have that, but you can still connect with people.
Yeah.
But also the Inner Light one, which is basically, to me, being given the ability to live an entire life and then coming back to your original one kind of changes your perspective, because it's like, I just had kids and I grew up and I got old and I died. What the hell? I mean,
And you find out that you've been gone for like 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So, although an interesting note about The Inner Light, it starred Patrick Stewart's son, who at the time was in his late 20s. and it was already bald. So there you go.
Wow.
Yeah, no, I enjoyed it. It was really good, and the
And that one
the
actually
song for
ripples
that
through the
episode.
rest of the series.
So sorry.
That episode ripples through the rest of the series.
It totally does, and into the TNG films too as well. In little threads here and there where the Picard character kind of, this is long after he became a Borg, but that was sort of affected him. But I think this episode actually affected him more because several times they actually come back to him, holding the flute or looking at the flute or whatever.
Yeah.
So anyway, to finish, I'm done talking about those because I could talk for hours about those episodes. Anyway, other than that, I think that's where we can end it because we've lost somebody and he's never come back. But I will say that if you are out and about and you see Anchor Steam Beer, pick it up because it is really good. It's an old beer. It's been around for a while, and it's enjoyable. I enjoyed it. I thought it looked pretty. It tasted pretty. So if you want to find out more about what we're doing, of course, you can go to our website at thecraftyboys.ca. You can go to our Twitter account, which is the Crafty Boys, and you can then go to Campbell River and tickle Dave until he urinates in his pants.
Nice.
Please don't.
Bye!